Refusing to talk. Disgraced former FBI lawyer Lisa Page planning to defy a congressional subpoena that would force her to testify before lawmakers.
She, of course, is under the microscope for those anti-Trump text messages with her lover, Agent Peter Strzok, who was in charge at the time of the Russia and Clinton email probes.
Here now to break it all down is Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Thank you for joining us. What do you think?
Well, I think it's a bit of a head scratcher as to why she would defy the subpoena. The subpoena requires that you show up. Yeah. It can't require that you answer because you have a right to remain silent. So if you defy the subpoena and don't show up, you're adding to the complexity of your legal woes. So I don't know why her lawyers would be advising her to do that. If she needs more time to prepare, which is the stated reason for not showing up, she's actually blaming the FBI for not giving her the documents she needs to prepare for her testimony. They should give her the time, because in the long run, we want a truthful and accurate and informed testimony. We don't want to play games. But bear in mind, and I've been very critical of this is secret testimony. And I harshly condemn secret testimony, because then you have the Democrats looking at it and they come out with their version. The Republicans look at it, come out with their version. How about if we watch and listen to the Q&A and form our own conclusions?
Right.
Well, you know, it's funny because she's had, the critics say that she's had plenty of time to figure this out. And I'm also curious, you know, they say that she's got something to hide. I'm curious, though, is there any penalty for just blowing off a congressional subpoena?
Well, she could go to jail if they really want to press it for blowing off. But there is no penalty for showing up and invoking your Fifth Amendment right to silence. Now, what would be the purpose of subpoenaing her if they know she's going to invoke her right to silence? It would just be to inconvenience her. They really want answers from her. The best way to get answers from her is to cooperate with her lawyers, give her the information she needs, let her study it, put her under oath, and see what her answers are.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at her attorney's statement. And it says, quote, "We have asked the committees to schedule another date that would allow sufficient time for Lisa to prepare. The committees have not honored that request. As a result, Lisa is not going to appear for an interview at this time."
No good purpose comes from this kind of sniping between a committee and a potential witness. Because, again, as I said, the purpose is to get information out of her, not to play games amongst lawyers. If she needs another week, give her the week. If she's wasting time, she's got to show up.
Okay, let's talk about Judge Brett Kavanaugh. This is going to be very interesting here over the next couple of months. They want to push this thing through fast. Charles Schumer now says that the judge should have to explain, I guess, his position on abortion, or maybe even his personal feelings, and recuse himself from what, the Trump, the Mueller probe, right?
This is unprecedented.
Yeah.
That someone would start their tenure on the Supreme Court and remove themselves from a category of cases that involve the person who appointed them. I can't imagine that Judge Kavanaugh would say yes to that. My strong advice would be, you know, just forget about it. You don't even have to reply to it. And in terms of what he thinks about abortion, here we go again. This has been going on for years. You know, he's Roman Catholic. He is probably personally against abortion. He has already said under oath that Roe versus Wade is the law of the land, and if he goes on the court, will take an oath to uphold the law of the land. On the other hand, you have Mike Pence, who said just last night, our goal is to undo Roe versus Wade. That's not a secret. The president's been saying that since he was a candidate. So where's this going to go? I have been critical of this nominee for reasons having nothing to do with abortion. I think he will be confirmed. He'll be a full-fledged justice without any disabilities, without any areas that he can't give opinions on. Look, the Democrats are saying that Donald Trump appointed Brett Kavanaugh because he believes that the president can't be prosecuted while he's president. Right. Even if he does believe that, so what? He'll be one of 9 members on the court, and he's entitled to be on that court once he's confirmed.
Judge, as always, good to see you.
Pleasure, guys.
Thank you.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Thank you.
54 minutes after the hour, firefighters going above and beyond the call of duty, how they saved an American flag in a truck that went up in flames.
And this next story really bites. What led up to this lawmaker's epic mugshot? Don't go anywhere.
That's a good one. Firefighters being praised for saving Old Glory from a raging highway inferno. Look at this. Corey Gallagher's truck destroyed, catching fire on his way home in upstate New York. but he says all that matters is the flag is safe.
The flag meant something to me, you know. It's sad, but it's still here. That's the thing that matters right now, is this flag is still here.
That's great. The flag given to him by his brother is a bit melted and tattered. Gallagher says, though, he's going to frame it before he joins the Army.
Oh, wow.
Great kid.
All right, next the bad. He broke in, but he couldn't break out. A Washington man arrested after getting stuck inside an escape room. Police say he panicked after breaking a doorknob. He then called 911 and told them his house was being robbed and gave them a fake address. He eventually got out, but police caught him nearby.
Nice. All right, the ugly, a local lawmaker. Oh, it's just such a great picture to wake up to. Facing felony charges for allegedly biting a corrections officer's thumb so hard that she broke the thumb. The Kansas councilwoman was initially brought in on an outstanding warrant for being drunk, clearly drunk in public, as we can see here. That's top 5 mugshots I've ever seen. What do you think?
Interesting. Yes. Okay. Thanks for watching us this morning. Is that what your mugshot looks like?
Yes.
Or what it look like?
Yeah, you never know.
Have a good day. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
See you.
Fox and Friends starts now.
President Trump putting NATO on notice and laying down the law on defense spending.
We're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting everybody. It's very unfair to our country, it's very unfair to our taxpayers.
Judge Brett Kavanaugh was on Capitol Hill meeting with some top Republican senators who will try to guide him through.
We feel very encouraged at the early response, not just here at the United States Capitol, but really all across the country.
The Trump administration readying new tariffs on another $200 billion in Chinese imports, ranging from burglar alarms to mackerel.
This just breaking. The corrupt FBI lawyer, Lisa Page, now will in fact not be testifying.
I think their lawyers are saying to them, you cannot go under oath or you're going to reveal information that will put you in jail.
This Florida man running for his life, chased by his 72-year-old tractor driving neighbor. He did get away. The 72-year-old arrested.
All right, we start with a Fox News alert. We are just moments away from President Trump's arrival officially at the NATO summit, where other world leaders are starting to gather.
But the president has already come out swinging, pressing our allies on defense spending.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, that man right there, Kevin Corke, is traveling with the president. He joins us live from Brussels with more. Kevin, the president has been blunt so far.
Yeah, blunt is a way of putting it. Incredibly so, quite frankly. It was riveting to watch him talk about not just what's been happening with NATO spending, but also talk in particular about Germany and how much, or in this case, how little they have been giving to defense spending. Now, it's obviously the president's mindset here is to level the playing field, guys, for the American taxpayer when it comes to funding security interests in the European region. That was his overarching message this morning as he met with some leaders from NATO. Yes, he talked at great length about what NATO partners have been able to spend and what they should be spending. By the way, he also made a very important point. He said, listen, the U.S., when it comes to Germany, for example, is helping to protect them from Russia, while the Germans are enriching the Kremlin to the tune of billions of dollars.
We're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting all of these countries. And then numerous of the countries go out and make a pipeline deal with Russia where they're paying billions of dollars into the coffers of Russia. And I think that's very inappropriate. So you tell me, is that appropriate? I mean, I've been complaining about this from the time I got in. It should have never been allowed to have happened. I have to bring it up because I think it's very unfair to our country. It's very unfair to our taxpayer. And I think that these countries have to step it up, not over a 10-year period. They have to step it up immediately.
That searing display by the president comes as the leaders of the alliance are looking for ways to strengthen the overall unit while obviously managing the financial expectations of the U.S. commander-in-chief. I should point this out very quickly, guys. I had a moment to spend with the defense minister of Germany not too long ago, and she said Germany is actually increasing by great amounts the amount that they are investing in their own security and defense. They think the NATO alliance is certainly a key to maintaining peace and stability here in the region, something that will certainly get a great deal of conversation here today, guys. But for now, back to you.
All right, Kevin Cork, live in Brussels.
So maybe it is working. If Germany's increasing their defense spending, we're paying 72% of the defense spending. The president is saying right out of the gate. I mean, that was a breakfast. He lands his plane, he goes to this breakfast, and he looks at the Secretary General in the face, and he said, "We're supposed to protect Germany, but they're getting energy from Russia." Explain that. It can't be explained. You know that. It's a pipeline deal that was billions of dollars.
Yeah, $10 billion.
Yeah, and we're protecting Germany from Russia, yet they're buying energy from Russia.
And yet we are overrun with natural gas, and we're very close to the technology to be their #1 supplier, and we'll be more dependable, and we'll come in with better rates. They are setting up the hub in Germany. So if the Russian gas is going to go through to Europe, it's going to go through Germany, and they are choosing to do it. Now, listen, the president sat down and was supposed to be, hey, nice to see you. Don't you love the veal? The eggs are fantastic. How do you people in Brussels do it? Instead, it ended up a real exchange. Listen to this.
Over the last year, about $40 billion more has been given by other countries to help NATO, but that's not nearly enough. The United States is paying far too much, and other countries are not paying enough. Hopefully we can get a result. This has been going on for decades, and it's disproportionate and not fair to the taxpayers of the United States, and we're going to make it fair.
And that's what it's all about, making it fair. What's interesting is, the president has referred to NATO as obsolete. You're delinquent. And then he's called all the countries that are not paying their fair share freeloaders, essentially. So the big question is, what does the president want? Does he want the countries to kick in more cash and bring them up to the threshold, or does he want out?
Oh, no, he better not want out. It would be a disaster. It's the most successful alliance in modern times. If he wants out, I think he'll have the pushback the entire American people. I also think he's point out his points are good and they're strong. For example, Poland backed us up, and they say that some countries are too close to Russia, and they named Germany. Turkey came out and said, we had a Patriot missile system from Germany. They took it out. Italy left theirs in. They are real allies. So there are some real complaints about Germany, and the president's not afraid to address it. And it's a much weaker politically Angela Merkel, who sits in front of the president right now, because the president's immigration policies in America are backed up by what the German people want in Germany.
Yeah, but for the president, the big question is, what do the American people want? I mean, we're paying 70% of the freight there. And do the average Americans feel like we're getting a good deal out of that? Wait a minute, why are we paying so much and they are paying so little and we're protecting them?
I doubt we would ever pull out, but if we did, it would be huge for these other allies, for these other countries, because who would cover their defense? We cover the majority of it. They would have.
Yeah. That's a whole nother continent over there.
We saved the free world, and we've kept the peace for 70 years because of NATO. When we got hit on 9/11, NATO put troops into Afghanistan immediately. It was the first time Rule 5 has been enacted, and they've lost 1,000 members of their armed forces fighting with us. Do they have to pay more? Yes. Did President Bush 41, Bush 43, did President Obama and President Clinton say the same thing? Yes. This president's already getting results from Europe. Push the rest of the way, make the alliance stronger, but don't blow it up.
Well, there are 29 countries in NATO: Belgium, Canada, France, Italy, the UK, Germany, Spain, among others. And the president, he's tweeted about this. He said they want us to pay the most to defend them. He said, but they're making it so difficult for us to do business in Europe. He said, we have lost $151 billion. Sure. That was last year alone on trade.
Right. That's a great point, Ainsley, because he's linking them both, and he's making it clear. So far, there has been improvement. Our allies have bulked up and put $266 billion more in their defense, and they plan on, we're getting closer to that threshold in 2024. That's because of this president.
Look, the president and NATO don't see eye to eye. When it comes to the Iran nuclear deal, we don't agree on that. The president doesn't agree with them on climate change, and then there's the trade war as well. So it's going to be a really interesting couple of days. Meanwhile, as you know, the president of the United States announced that Brett Kavanaugh is his pick for the Supreme Court. And it sounds like Mitch McConnell would like a vote on the nominee in the fall and then have Kavanaugh on the court when it opens on October 1st. But the problem is you got Chuck Schumer wants to delay past Election Day because he doesn't want all of those red state Democrats to take a very difficult vote on the man second from the left in the blue tie before the election.
You can see these pictures, video from yesterday. President gets on the plane and he goes overseas to deal with NATO. The vice president is in charge of taking Kavanaugh to the Hill, introducing him to the Republican leaders. He was with Mitch McConnell, you saw there. He also sat down with Chuck Grassley for 30 minutes yesterday. So you have these Republicans that are meeting with him that support him, and then you have the Democrats. You have those that are ratcheting up their rhetoric. You had Senator Richard Blumenthal, the Democrat from Connecticut. He said he is the worst nightmare. He said because of his pro-gun record, and he had a message for the folks down in Florida after that school shooting.
The vice president talked to Brett yesterday. He also said this about Kavanaugh. Believe it or not, he supports him.
I think we feel very encouraged at the early response, not just here at the United States Capitol, but really all across the country, to Judge Brett Kavanaugh. The president wanted to put someone on the bench who would not legislate from the bench. We've had members of our federal judiciary who literally have been making policy and making law from the bench. The president looked at this judge and all of the candidates for this opening through that prism, and that was the basis of this decision.
Yeah, all those, you look at these Democrats, they're never going to vote for him. The ones that are interesting, the blue state Democrats in red states, and the ones that are interesting are Senator Murkowski and Senator Collins. And so far, if you look at his background and everything that he's written, he's this thing called a conservative judge. Well, he has conservative beliefs, and that is antithetical towards what Democrats want. That's it.
Senator Collins yesterday made encouraging comments about his lower court decisions when it came to the Affordable Care Act, and that in 2006 he said that Roe v. Wade is a binding precedent. So, it would be great to get some Democrats, but at the same time, he doesn't need to lose any Republicans.
Those Democrats that you're talking about in the red states, that's Trump country. They're up for re-election. They're in a bind, but they have said they're not going to announce their decision yet. They're going to vet him and make sure that he would be, a good justice.
Senator Schumer could destroy them. If he wants to hold the line and says no one vote, he could destroy every blue state Democrat.
Well, he wants to be the majority leader, and to accomplish that, he's got to delay the vote until after Election Day, and that ain't going to happen.
Right.
All right, it's 6:11 now here in New York City. On 7-Eleven, actually, it's Slurpee Day, and Jillian joins us live.
That's right. Good Wednesday morning to you. Let's start with some extreme weather. Boy, we are seeing really bad weather across parts of the country, and right here included. A tornado rips through North Dakota overnight, killing a newborn baby. The deadly twister destroying more than 100 homes in this RV park, with winds reaching up to 135 miles per hour. The storm injuring more than 24 people. Look at that. A massive explosion rocking a Wisconsin neighborhood overnight, injuring 2 firefighters and a police officer. Flames, smoke, and debris filling the area. Fires burning all night in Sun Prairie, just outside of Madison. People living within half a mile still evacuated at this hour. A contractor hit a gas line before the explosion. The injured firefighters and officer will be okay. Several members of that youth soccer team and their coach in isolation this morning after their incredible rescue from a cave in Thailand. Besides some weight loss, everyone is doing okay. This morning, some of the boys have been allowed to see their parents. The 3 Thai SEALs and doctor who went into the cave to stay with the boys also emerging, giving big thumbs up. Look at that photo. There are plans to add lights and sirens to the cave where the boys got stuck so others don't get trapped too. Oh, some heartbreaking news to share. You remember this dog. The world's ugliest dog has died. Jaja's owner telling us she died in her sleep just weeks after earning that title, and just weeks after she joined us here on Fox and Friends. Take a look. This was just June 27th. Jaja was rescued from a puppy mill when she was 5. Her signature look included a dragging tongue, underbite, round shoulders, sparkly pink nail polish. She was just 9 years old, but in my eyes, a beautiful dog.
I cannot believe that. She was just here.
Died in her sleep. Yep.
Did not look healthy.
Heartbreaking?
Did not look healthy when
I know,
when
but it's my heart breaks for them.
The owner said that dog had a heart of gold.
Yep.
No.
Beautiful
So
critter.
sorry for them.
That's too bad.
That's hard. Have you ever been through that?
Oh, it's
terrible. It's the worst.
Awful. Jillian, thank you. Meanwhile, President Trump has landed in Brussels, and already he's putting NATO on notice, calling out our European allies for not paying their fair share. So how will the world respond? That's coming up next.
And Mayor Bill de Blasio, a legal border crosser, question mark there. The New York City mayor's trip to Texas is under fire because
Speaking Moments ago, he defended President Trump's stance on what he calls unfair defense spending.
President Trump has a direct language, plain speaking, sometimes very direct, pointing at specific allies. But when it comes to the core message, we actually all agree that NATO doesn't share the burden in a fair way. Also, we have to share the burden in NATO fairer than we do today.
President tired of the nonsense. The comments there coming after the two met for a bilateral breakfast earlier this morning, where the president pulled no punches when calling out other nations, specifically Germany, spending billions of dollars on Russian oil. The president arriving in Brussels overnight for the NATO summit just days before his sit down with Vladimir Putin. It's been a very interesting morning so far.
Yes, it has.
Seeing them go back and forth.
I put a small American flag on my front porch. It's a small flag, but it stands for a big thank you for what they do.
Patriotic price tag. An Air Force veteran forced to sell his home after being slapped with hefty fines over how he hung his American flag.
Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7. Sirius XM 115 is here with the outrage online. Carly.
Hey, good morning, guys. Larry Murphy, who served as an Air Force air traffic controller, lived at Tides condominium in Sweetwater, Florida. But one day, 7 years ago, the Homeowners Association sent him a letter saying he would have to remove an unauthorized object from his front porch. That object was a 17-inch American flag that he had placed in a flower pot. Well, Murphy decided to ignore the request, and he was fined $100 a day as a result. Now, after an intense legal battle and facing foreclosure, Murphy decided to sell his home. Pretty heartbreaking story here, and a lot of folks on social media are weighing in on it. Belle says, this really makes me very angry. It seems everyone that has rights other than American, that loves their country, flying the American flag, should be applauded. Lori on Twitter also says, homeowners associations are out of control. American flags ought to be off limits. But Martin tweets, follow the rules and you will not be in trouble. That homeowners association did not return several news outlets' requests for comment.
It's a stupid rule.
Clickhole. A lot of folks on social media with all the fake news coming out there. They're not laughing at this one, though. One Twitter user says if they would have done 2 minutes of research, they would have known it was fake. And Ty on Twitter also says this is why the term fake news exists. I got to say, though, guys, the Washington Post was writing an article about that, 14-year-old song, because people in the UK have launched a campaign to skyrocket it to the #1 spot on iTunes and things like that, because in honor of the president's visit to London coming up. Yeah.
And I love how they retract. They try to act like it wasn't a big deal in the retraction. And they try to say it in a way that makes them look
I have
good.
a feeling that the former president would think it was a bit of a big deal.
Yeah, I would think so, too.
Thanks, Carly.
Carly,
thanks a lot.
Paige will be missing on Capitol Hill today. A former anti-Trump FBI lawyer refusing to show up and answer for her text messages. So is she allowed to just dodge a congressional subpoena? Judge Andrew Napolitano. Good morning, Judge. Is here to
Hey, there he is. But first, we got to check in with Steve Ducey and see what's coming up here in about 15 minutes. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Rob. Hey, Jill. Good morning to you. Coming up, we are going to, of course, have the president live at the NATO summit. Things kick off promptly at 7 a.m. You'll see the president live right here. Also, Congresswoman Diane Black, who's a Republican from Tennessee, is proposing that anybody who enters the country illegally be
for a government-mandated fuel price hike. About 120 U.S. citizens are staying at a hotel that protesters tried to set on fire. The nation of Haiti has since canceled that price increase.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin at the Kremlin today. The two leaders will discuss the Putin-backed Iranian presence in Syria. Putin has kept Iranian troops away from the Israeli border there, but refuses to withdraw them entirely. He meets with President Trump on Monday, who is currently in Belgium for the NATO summit.
Vice President Mike Pence pushing back on Democratic leaders vowing to block President Trump's Supreme Court nomination.
The president wanted to put someone on the bench who would not legislate from the bench, who would not, as has been too much of the case in the last generation or more, where we've had members of our federal judiciary who literally have been making policy and making law from the bench.
Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is urging the Senate to move quickly on Judge Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation.
A judge ordering the White House to reunite illegal immigrant families who remain separated faster than the expedited process will cut out DNA testing that government lawyers argued was needed.
Jackie Ibanez is live in the studio here breaking down the details of this. Hey, Jackie.
Hi, good morning, Jillian and Rob. The same judge that issued that order is the same one who imposed the Tuesday deadline to reunite 102 immigrant children with their parents. That was yesterday, and most of those kids remain separated this morning. The president's answer to that? Listen.
Tell people not to come to our country illegally. That's the solution. Don't come to our country illegally. Come like other people do. Come legally.
The Department of Justice releasing this statement, quote, any children not being reunified by the July 10th deadline are not being reunified because of legitimate logistical impediments that render timely compliance impossible or excusable. And so defendants are complying with the court's order. U.S. District Judge Dana Sabra wants to speed up that process by siding with the ACLU that DNA testing isn't necessary for every family. Sabra says a birth certificate could be used to confirm biological parents. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary Kristen Nelson meeting in Guatemala with officials from Central America and agreeing to work together to stop illegal immigration.
I will continue to encourage all those who undertake such a journey. Please do so legally. Please do so and ask for asylum in the first safe country that you reach. There is no need to break U.S. law to seek the shelter that you need.
Now, I want you to take a look at these staggering numbers of individuals arrested trying to illegally cross into the U.S. That number over 40,000 in just May alone. Rob, Jillian?
There are some legit reasons why they don't want to reunify these kids with the adults they came in with. We've seen that justified here over the last few days. Jackie, thank you so much.
Thank you. It is 32 minutes after the hour, and Adam Platz joins us live in the studio right now to break down the forecast. What can we expect?
Hey, guys, breaking down a forecast that does include at least a little bit of severe weather. That's what we've been seeing here through the overnight hours as storms moved across the northern plains. We're looking at spots there in North Dakota where there was a tornado overnight, possibly some very severe weather with this one. Good news is it is beginning to calm down. The other story is the tropics, and that's been the story here the last couple of days, continues to be so. Hurricane Chris now jumped up to a Category 2 overnight. Winds up to 105 miles an hour, will eventually run up to 110 miles an hour. The good news with this system is it runs along the coast. It isn't going to get any closer than it already is. So what are the concerns with it? Well, if anyone's going to the beach the next couple of days across the East Coast, we do have high rip current risks, which means if you get out into the water too deep, you could get sucked out. But otherwise, this system isn't going to be making landfall. The other thing to pay attention to, and this is the final one, what was once Hurricane Beryl, now moving across the Bahamas, is going to run back over some warm water. This could regenerate, becoming a hurricane once again. Guys, that's something we're going to be paying attention to the next couple of days.
So it begins.
Yes, we're getting into the season.
Thank you, Adam. Yep. Democrats are reportedly rallying behind Senator Elizabeth Warren as their best bet to take on President Trump in 2020. But is she the candidate to rally the Rust Belt and convince blue-collar states to vote blue? Joining me now to debate is former presidential advisor to former Presidents Clinton and Obama, Dr. Susan Johnson Cook, and Media DC political analyst Ron Meyer. Thank you both for joining us. Susan, I'll start with you. Is she the person to take on President Trump?
I think Warren warrants strong consideration. I think she is definitely one of the ones. I mean, you know, when we have a candidate, we rally around that candidate and we make sure that not only she, but she has the support that she needs. She's strong. She's politically savvy. She's a senator. I think she's one of the ones who warrants strongest consideration.
Okay, Ron, do you agree?
Well, I'm sure. I'd love to agree with her. From a Republican's perspective, we'd love to have Senator Warren be the nominee. I think she'd be even easier to beat than Secretary Clinton was. If you look at these Rust Belt states, you really think someone like Senator Warren, who has basically only been a college professor before serving the United States Senate and not passing any substantive legislation, will appeal to places like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Ohio, Pennsylvania. I mean, I just don't see it happening. I don't see someone with her values appealing to that part of the population. If you look, she's really a democratic socialist, and she's not like the populist like Bernie Sanders is, where he sort of has this union appeal. And I just don't see how they're going to win over these Trump voters. And by the way, in these states that we're talking about, these Rust Belt states, we've seen 300,000 new manufacturing jobs in the country, and most of those in the states that we're talking about. So I have a really hard time believing Senator Warren is going to be able to go to those states and say, we need to get rid of President Trump, and what experience she has in the economy to get it back going when it is actually getting back going in many of these states.
All right, and you
I
mentioned
totally
some of those.
disagree with you, Ron.
Hold on
yeah,
one second.
I totally disagree. Mm-hmm.
Let me just, let's pull up this map here because we want to break down some of these numbers, and then I'll let you respond here in just a second. Some of these states to watch in 2020 that did help tip the scale for President Trump, then candidate in 2016. You look at Michigan, President Trump had 47.3 of the votes compared to Hillary Clinton's 47%. In Wisconsin, Trump had 47.2 compared to Clinton's 46.5. And then Pennsylvania, Trump had 48.2 compared to Clinton's 47.5. So you're looking at a small margin of numbers there. Ultimately, though, people did go out and vote for President Trump. And you look at, to Ron's point, the economy and how well things are going right now. Dr. Johnson Cook, do you really believe that some of those states would tip in favor of Democrats?
Well, totally. I mean, like you said, it's a small margin, so it can tip either way. But I think it's not just the economy people are looking at. People are looking at the separation of families. People are looking at all the things that are not going right with this nation. And I think Senator Warren is going to be front and center for that. So I disagree with Ron in terms of whether she can do it or not. She certainly can, and that's what strategy is about. That's what political strategy is about, that where we're weak, we surround her with strength. But she certainly has been strong and out front from the beginning. So I totally disagree with you, Ron.
Well, listen, Susan, I think that people on the coasts and maybe in the suburbs care about Trump's Twitter and some of these things and his personality and all that. The people in the Midwest, they don't care about that stuff, not nearly as much. They care about being employed again. You're seeing steel factories open up for the first time. You're seeing unemployment hitting record lows for almost every major demographic. And so I have a hard time believing that Senator Warren is to be able to go out there and make a case for anything. In fact, I think that if Senator Warren is the nominee, President Trump will be the first Republican to win in Minnesota for the last 50 years. If you look at the numbers in Minnesota, they're closing. He's doing rallies there. I'd put that as a state to watch if they nominate someone like Elizabeth Warren, anyone from the coast. I think President Trump can even expand Republican margins in the Midwest.
Look, time will tell. Ron Meyer, Dr. Susan Johnson Cook, we appreciate both of you joining us this morning.
Time will tell. Thank you.
All right, 37 minutes after the hour, patriotic.